Growing up, I had this unmet desire to make money my own way. This led me to try and fail pretty much every online business that you can think of. There's this principle, it's called the principle of favorability, and it says that when you set out to achieve something, you get kind of like this beginner's luck, and that luck is what kind of motivates you to keep going. So as you know, whenever you start a new skill, you probably will have this period of luck where you're like, oh, this is so easy, like why didn't I just start this before? And that's usually followed by like a big pit of despair, right? So that beginner's luck for me is what fed this desire and what grew this desire inside of me to want to make money by myself. Fast forward a couple of years, I'm scrolling through Instagram and I come across a story from one of my friends, and he posted a screenshot of his MetaTrader account that he was showing off his profit. So I sent him a message. I'm like, what is this? How did you make this money? Basically, he gives me the gist of things, and he points me in the right direction on where he started and where I can start as well. Now fast forward maybe like 6 months, every single day I'm trying to learn what trading is and what all these terms mean and how to look at a chart and everything, and I begin demo trading as well. And then one day he tells me that he came across this bot that he bought that trades while you can be outside doing whatever you want, and all you have to do is just leave it on your computer and it'll just make money passively. And he's hyping it up. No, I'm getting hyped up. I'm like thinking like, yeah, it's gonna be sick. Like I'm gonna make money in my sleep. So he basically paid for it, but he offered to give it to me for free because it was just like a download link. So I click on it the next day and I set it up on a demo account because we were both trying to just test it out, see if it would work, and I head to university. I kind of forgot about it until I was in my lecture and I'm just bored as hell, and I'm like, oh, like I remember that I put this bot on in the morning, like let's see how it's doing. So I think it was on like a 10k account. So I open my phone, I click on MetaTrader, and I see it made like $300-400, and I start freaking out in my head, right? Like I'm like, oh my god, like this is actually making money. I can actually do something. I can actually give back to my parents now. Like I'm just in this train of thought that just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. So I open Instagram and I start messaging like my boys group chat. I'm like, oh boys, like I just found this thing that like it'll make you boys financially free. If you guys wanna buy this, just let me know and I'll get it for you. So I'm just like hyping it up so much in my head, and my thoughts are just going crazy. Like, oh, like this can actually work. Like this trading thing, like, oh, it's so easy. I can make money now, and I can buy my parents something nice, and I can go to this trip, and my mind's just racing. And at one point I even text my dad. I'm like, oh dad, like this is crazy. I just like look what I found. And all my friends and even my dad, they're all like, shut up bro, like what are you talking about? Like, because it sounds so scammy, right? Like you get this bot and it just starts making you money passively. It's such a scammy thing, and they were all like, rightfully so, they were like, what are you like doing? Like shut up bro, like this isn't gonna work. So I'm just thinking to myself like, all right, like more for me. I don't really care, more for me. So I go home that day and then I test it out for one more day, and it does the same thing. It makes $300-400. So I'm like, all right, like now it's time to actually make some money. So I load up around $1,000 or $1,000 into a account, and the next morning I set it up again on my computer. And now we're trading actual money. So I'm like, all right, now it's time to actually like go places. Now it's time to level up in this world. So I go to uni that day, and now I'm kind of checking it like every 5 minutes or so, because I just want to see, like I just want to get that hit of dopamine, like yeah, now I'm making money, now I'm going places. So every 5 minutes or so while I'm driving, I'm checking my phone, like yeah. And it's going up very slowly, because this was a $1,000 account. It wasn't a $10,000 account, but it still was making money, like $30, $40. I'm checking it again and again from 40 to 50, 50 to 60. So I'm like, all right, this is working. And then I have to go to my class, and then I have to go to another lecture. And I'm still checking it every 5 minutes, and it's making more and more money. I'm like, yeah, this is sick. And then fast forward maybe a couple of hours, and I'm at the gym. And I remember this so vividly. I'm sitting on the pec deck, and I'm like, I haven't checked my phone in a while. Let's check how the bot is doing. So I open my phone, I click on MetaTrader, and in big red writing, I see minus $500. And my heart drops, it sinks to the ground. I felt like my whole world just came crashing down, because in my head, I'm thinking so far ahead. I'm thinking like, yeah, I made it now. And obviously now it's such a stupid thought to have, but I was destroyed. Like, people were walking past me like, oh, hey bro, what are you trading today? I'm like, I'm trading just, like, I was like whispering, and like I was so like, oh, I was so sad. And they're probably thinking like, oh, like, damn, what happened? Like, his grandma or something died? Like, why is he so sad? And I'm over here like, nah, I just lost half my account. Obviously I didn't tell them because I was ashamed, but I was just thinking that I was so destroyed. I was so distressed. Basically why that happened was because that bot, how it operated was, when you won an amount, it was a very small amount, but when you lost, it doubled that amount, and then doubled it and doubled it. So as you can imagine, if there was like a loss streak of 3 or 4, which is very probable, the account would be blown. So the bot was it was a scam. It was terrible. And later on, I actually found out. I was scrolling through, not scrolling through, I was going through Google, and I was looking up like similar bots, because I'm thinking like, oh, maybe this is just like a one-off thing. And I find the exact same bot that my friend paid like $1,000 for. I find it for free on this little like media file or this download place, and it was the exact same bot with the exact same videos. What this guy had done had basically just made it his own style, but it was the same thing, and just resold it for $1,000. So now me and my friend just got scammed. More my friend, because he actually paid for it. But this was, I didn't see it as a $500 loss, which is what it actually was. I saw it as a $500 lesson, because this taught me a very important thing, and it taught me that you will never get rich quick. This isn't something that just comes like that. Trading isn't like that. Nothing is like that in this world. No matter what skill you're trying to learn, you will never get rich quick. It was a very expensive lesson, but now it's a lesson that's ingrained in my head. There's a saying that goes, a wise man learns from his mistakes, and a wiser man learns from the mistakes of others. So I want you guys to learn from my mistakes, and I'm gonna tell you guys 5 things that I wish I could have told myself 2 years ago when I was sitting on that pec deck looking down at my phone. These are 5 things that I wish I would have told that version of me. The first and most important thing is patience. That version of me needed to realize that you can't get rich overnight. There is no get rich quick scheme. If you are sold this idea, that's the biggest red flag that I can possibly think of, because they're playing on your human desire or your human emotion that's greed, that wants more money, and that's a very normal desire to have. But when these marketers play on that, you should know that, okay, this is a red flag. Like, I'm not gonna get rich quick. Erase that out of your head, because that's not a possibility. All it is a marketing tactic. You need to understand that this takes time. This is a process like any other. And you can think of this on a bigger scale, like when you start trading all the way up to when you get funded and when you get your first payout. That's a big scale. It's a process that takes a long time. Or you can think of it as well on a smaller scale, as in day to day. Maybe if you find yourself over trading, taking too many trades, you need to tell yourself to be patient, to wait for an A+ setup. The best traders in the world, they don't trade every day. They don't trade 2 times a day, 3 times a day like you're probably doing. They trade like 4, 5, like on the lower end, like less than 10 times a month. That requires patience. There's been times where it's been a month and I'm looking at the charts every single day and I don't see a setup, so I don't take it. And you guys should do the exact same. If you don't see an A plus setup, don't take it, don't rush it. If you're thinking to yourself, does this align with my plan? I don't know, but this confluence does, this doesn't, just stop right there. Don't take a setup that's not A plus, that you're not confident in. Now my second point is that you will never know what's happening next in the market. Even if your setup is an A plus setup, losses are unavoidable. At the end of the day, the financial market is incredibly random. You will never know what's happening next, what the next 5-minute candle will look like, the next hourly candle, the next daily candle. You will never know. And I know you're probably thinking in your head, oh, but ICT, he got kidnapped by the market makers. He's a market maker. He knows what's happening next. Come on, like, you really believe that? Even he doesn't know what's happening next. No one knows what's happening next. The truth is that the market is random. There's millions and millions and millions of people that all have their own idea of what the market is going to do today, and they all individually influence that. Some people might go long, some people might go short, some people might stay out. Every single decision impacts it, and every single decision is random. But this doesn't mean that you can't make money. Even though it is still random, you still can make money, because what you can have is an edge. You can have an edge on the market. You may not know what's happening next exactly, but you can be 55% sure that it's going to go up. And over a long period of time, if your win rate is 1-to-1, that 55% will go crazy, it'll compound. So that's what you can have and what you can't have. You can't know what's happening next, but you can have a small edge on what might happen. And this goes on to my third point, that there are a random distribution between wins and losses. A trade, like many things, is statistically independent, which means that you will never be due a win. If you lose 3 times in a row, that does not make your fourth trade more likely to win. You're not going to be due a win. If your win rate is 40%, each single trade will have a win rate of 40%. So even if you lose 3 times, the chance of you winning the 4th time will still be 40%. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this, maybe the beginners haven't, but the more advanced people might have. And it's a Monte Carlo simulation. And this basically is a simulation or a calculator where you can put in your details about your trades, like how many trades you take in a year, what your win rate is, what your break-even percent is, what your average risk to reward is, and it basically calculates a projection of your results. And it'll calculate it on a good year, on a bad year, on a terrible year, on an okay year. It'll calculate it on a wide range of probabilities. This name, the Monte Carlo, actually came from a casino, believe it or not. In 1913, there was a casino called the Monte Carlo Casino. And on this day, there was a roulette spin. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's basically a big wheel and it has red, black, or green. Usually like the red and black is like a 50-50 or like a 45% chance, and then the green is like a 5% chance. So it should be like relatively like a heads or tails, like okay, heads, tails, red, black, red, black, like 50-50, right? On this day, there were 26 consecutive blacks. Now just imagine, like, you're there at a casino that day and it goes black and it goes black again and it goes black again, and now you're thinking, all right, now like a red is due, surely it's going to be a red now. Wrong. No, that's what everyone in that casino that day thought. And so many people lost millions because they kept betting on red, even though it was black. To them, it's like red is due. They're thinking, oh, it's gonna be red soon. Wrong, they lost so much money. And in the same way, you're probably thinking, if you go on a losing streak, loss. Win is due. I'm gonna bet more, I'm gonna risk more. But that's just not the case, because each event is statistically independent. So you need to let go of your desire to know what's going to happen next, because as I said in the previous point, you will never know. The fourth point is to lessen the power of association. Now this means that even though something worked for you, let's just say last week you took a trade and it had a breaker structure, a liquidity sweep, and it worked for you at maybe like the start of London session, the start of New York session, and you see that exact same setup this week, just because it happened last week does not mean it will happen again. And in the same way, if you lost the trade, and let's just say in the losing trade, there wasn't a break of structure, there was just a market structure shift. So it was a bit weaker. And you see that trade and you lose it and you're thinking, oh, like it wasn't a break of structure, it was just a market structure shift. Now I can't include market structure shifts because I'm just gonna lose. In that same way, you can't do that because you can't associate that loss or that win with what's going to happen next. What you need to do instead is to just let your edge play out. On the big level, this means that you will make money. On the small level, this means that you will lose. You're going to lose some days, some weeks, some months. But over the course of a year, if you do let your edge play out, you will yield a positive return. Another way to go about this is if we're looking at the market structure shift versus the break of structure example, and you're thinking, okay, a market structure shift isn't as good as a break of structure. And your reasoning for that is because the last trade you lost. This isn't sound reasoning. This isn't what hedge funds do. This isn't what investors do. Instead, they build data that is statistically relevant and they build a database. And they see, okay, does this market structure shift actually yield a lower return than a breaker structure, or is it just in my head? And they do this over thousands of trades and they see if there is actually statistical relevance. Now this goes on to my fifth point, collect data. You need to stop thinking of yourself as a retail trader and you need to put yourself in the shoes of a Wall Street trader, of an investment banker, of a hedge fund manager. You need to think how these people think and you need to do what these people do. These people, they spend time developing computer programs, mathematical ways to see what's statistically relevant and what's not. And how they do this is through, as I said before, a big database, and they analyze every single variable that you can possibly think of, and they see which one is actually yielding you a better return and which one isn't, and which series of them, like which confluences stacked up onto each other are yielding a better return and which ones aren't. These guys are extremely detailed and this is why they can make a career out of it. This is why a hedge fund manager gets paid so much, because it requires a lot of work. You can't just mentally in your head be like, okay, last trade wasn't a break of structure, now I'm not going to use the market structure shift. You can't do that. You need to build a database and you need to see if it is statistically relevant. You need to add statistics into this. You need to add math into this. You need to add data into this. You can't be trading like a retail trader. Now, creating a database can be very tedious and very hard, but don't worry because I've made another video that is a full guide on how to do that. And that'll be somewhere here that you can just click on and go through and make your own database. I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching. Leave a like, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below.